Future fortune. Future fortune. May my future have a lot of fortune in it because I'm putting in so much work for my YouTube and want to do big things. One can only hope. Hopefully this manifesting thing will work with this one. But anyway, hey, what's up everyone? It's your boy Matt Diazable coming at you with a new music review. Thanks for coming on by. I appreciate it. You the best like always. If you're new, don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment. Oh yeah. Today I am checking out the latest release from a band called Restraining Order with their latest album called Future Fortune. If you've never heard of Restraining Order, they are I guess you could say New England hardcore / punk band. A lot of the members are from different areas in that area, but they're from the New England area of America, and they have been known for being a very, I guess you could say, New England style of punk and hardcore in terms of like they channel a very old school punk vibe to them from like the 80s and 90s, but with a little bit of a modern twist and modern touring ethos and just working really hard because they have been a very, very, very prominent band in the punk hardcore scene for the past couple of years because they've been touring like crazy, going all over the place while refining their craft with each release they put out. And I covered this band a couple of years ago with their last album, Locked in Time. And I was very impressed with that album because it was just a very chaotic, but very well controlled album. And so I'll put a link down below if you want to check that out. But I'm excited to talk about this new music because they've gone on to some new labels. They've seem to have shifted their sound, but there's still that, classic style of punk hardcore that you want from a band like this. If Locked in Time was Restraining Order's loud, honest, handshake with punk and hardcore, a good way to summarize it would be like a sweaty, fast-talking handshake that wore its rawness like a badge. Then this latest album, Future Fortune, feels like a band that is, taking a deep breath and standing tall and just tightening their overall presentation. But don't get me wrong, it's still sharp, it's still wild, but there's a focus here that just is more defined than before. You can hear that this is a band that has learned to control their chaos without ever really killing it. When I reviewed their last album, Locked in Time, I talked a lot about how the band's strength is, their way of being very simple in terms of playing, has a very good simplicity to it. Like how the bass grooves, the drums punch really hard, and the shouted hooks hit without ever really overthinking anything. And I feel like Future Fortune really builds upon that foundation that was established on Locked in Time, but with a little bit more awareness for space and pacing. Everything here just feels a little bit more deliberate this time around. But I gotta say, the energy, it hasn't gone anywhere. It's still there. But the way that the energy is being used here, it feels smarter, more measured, and just overall more mature. And I will still say this, that the bass for this band is still there. It's not a surprise, but it's their secret weapon. It's their strength. It's their holy grail. It's thick, it's heavy, it's endlessly dynamic, and often it is the most alive element on any track. On songs like Free Ride and Future Fortune, it buzzes and hums underneath the riffs very nicely, giving the record a very, warm and very lived in feeling. The guitars, they still carry that old school punk energy, slightly distorted, but always groovy. But underneath it all, it's the bass that just glues everything together, guiding each song with a lot of personality and swing to it. Vocally, I feel like the band is still leaning into what sounds best for them, and that is direct, emotionally raw shouting that just lands with so much clarity. Like on the song Now Not, the screams are very powerful, but really easy to understand. So it lets a lot of the emotion hit really hard, and you can easily sing along to the song. And as you move along into the record, on certain tracks like Future Fortune and The Suffer, he seems to shift his style, and it kind of leans more into a punk, almost oi-inspired delivery. Less about hardcore screaming and more about controlled yelling. It's a subtle evolution to their style, so it adds a lot of texture and variety without ever really losing the band's identity. And then on some of the tracks, they have some layered vocals to really, thicken up the overall sound of the vocals that really give it a fresh feel to them. Energy wise, the album really bounces between, bursts of chaos, while, there's moments of like restraint and pulled backness. Songs like Adapt and Shame Game are just all speed and just pure urgency, giving that classic Restraining Order feel. But there are moments on this album where the band lets the songs really breathe, particularly on the songs Free Ride and Journeyman. These songs are a bit slower, deeper, and a bit more reflective. And it's a bit of a contrast, given that Future Fortune has a bit more dimension to it than Locked in Time. It's an album that, shifts between adrenaline and atmosphere. So it really gives you some nice dynamic shifts throughout the listening experience. So nothing on here really feels too repetitive. But there are a few moments on this record where the band kind of like lean a little too comfortably into their established style of playing music. A few of the songs on this record kind of follow a familiar structure, and that is, a very fast verse, heavy chorus, and then a back-end guitar solo. And yes, it's a formula that works with this band and everything, but it does feel a little bit expected at times. And some of the transitions on this, between clean and just distorted sections feel a little bit abrupt and jarring. So it feels like it's a little bit more about the structure than just letting the energy flow more naturally. But I still have to give it up to them. These little like defects and errors and just noticeable things, they give it a very undeniable charm. Those imperfections really feel like more like quirks than flaws. Production wise, I feel like this album feels slightly cleaner compared to their last album. Everything in the mix feels a little bit tighter, and every instrument is really given its own space to breathe and be properly represented here. The guitars at times do sit a little bit low in the mix, like on the songs The Suffer and Used Love, but the overall payoff with those songs gives it a very warmer and more cohesive sound overall. So it sacrifices that I'm willing to accept for the bigger scheme of everything. And I feel like you can really feel the human chemistry between all the members of the band, because there's some moments of, rough edges that feel quite intentional without being really accidental. And it gives the album a very human-like feel to it. There's a looseness to this album. It's very organic, the energy, because every hit, every shout, every riff, every chord just feels very lived in. And I like that the album kind of swings back and forth between different genres, whether it be like punk ferocity or more garage rock swagger. At the end of the day, it never really loses its sincerity. The guys really want to play this style of music, and it's coming off very authentic. Even in the simplest moments on this record, the groove and the overall stripped back feeling just kind of sticks in your head long after you've listened to the song. And so it gives the album a very grounded and real feel to it. So by the end of the album, with the songs Journeyman and Were You There, Restraining Order sound like, a band closing out a very sweaty and long set. The energy is still there, but it's very tempered, very reflective, almost very grateful all in all at the end. These songs really just don't like explode at you as much as they kind of, exhale, letting everything just settle after the chaos. So I would say, if Locked in Time was, punk just screaming, yelling at you, being very chaotic, Future Fortune feels like, it's punk music that is, not being shouted at you, but it's standing with you and you are shouting with it. It's raw, but refined. It's very loud and thoughtful. And so it feels like a band really growing up without really losing their fire, which can be a very difficult thing to do. So with this latest album, it feels like Restraining Order hasn't really, reinvented themselves, but they've just really sharpened their edges, learned how to really pull back and give very rough songs that have a lot of full heart to them and zero fill to them. It's all good stuff here. So this latest album from Restraining Order, Future Fortune, I would have to give it a good and decent 8.5 out of 10. Links down below. Tell me what you think about this album, what you think about Restraining Order. Check out my old review of Locked in Time over here, and probably after this video, I did a reaction video to one of their singles a couple years ago. Check it out. Until next time, guys. See you in the pit.
Good things about you.